Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, Magic fan. I've got a deck tech video for you, a Brawl deck tech video. Let's get started. First of all, the commander of this deck is Etrata the Silencer. This is a Dimir deck, blue and black. She's a total of 4 mana. She's a 3/5 and cannot be blocked. When she deals combat damage to a player, you exile an opponent's creature with a hit counter. If the opponent has 3 creatures in exile with hit counters, they lose the game. That's so fun. Etrata can then shuffle back into the library or go back to the command zone. So let's check out how I've got this deck set up. First, looking at the mana base, I've got a Lotus Field. It's hexproof, enters tapped, you have to sacrifice 2 lands to keep it. Then you get 3 mana of any one color. Karn's Bastion, it's colorless mana or helps you proliferate. I've got a few planeswalkers in this deck, so proliferating is nice. Interplanar Beacon, you gain life when you summon a planeswalker. Again, I've got planeswalkers, that'll get me some life, and it helps me get the right mana for the planeswalkers. 1 and tap, add 2 mana of different colors, and spend it only for planeswalkers. Fabled Passage, this is the Better Evolving Wilds. Lets you go look for a basic land, and it enters untapped if you've got 4 or more. Evolving Wilds lets you go look for a basic land, put it into play tapped. Command Tower, good old Command Tower in a Brawl deck, adds mana of any color, blue or black. Watery Grave adds blue or black mana, but it shocks you first for 2. Witch's Cottage, if you've got 3 other swamps, it comes into play untapped and it lets you get back a creature from your graveyard back onto the library. That'll be pretty useful because I've got some good creatures that I want to bring back over and over. 8 swamps, plain old swamps. 1 Castle Lochtwain. This is the rare land from Throne of Eldraine. It enters tapped unless you've got 1 more swamp. After that, it gives you 1 black mana. After that, you pay 3 mana, tap, draw a card, and lose life equal to the number of cards you have in hand. Mystic Sanctuary. That's like the Witch's Cottage. You have to have islands first, and then when it comes into play, untapped, you can bring back a sorcery or instant from your graveyard. 5 islands, 1 Castle Vantress. So this is the rare from Throne of Eldraine. Comes into play untapped if you've got another island, and then later on you can pay 4 to scry 2, so it helps smoothen out your draws as you go further in the game. As for the rest of the cards, let me jump back to the beginning. So what I've got going on this deck is a few fun things, some surveil stuff, some weird creatures, and some fun spells. So for 1 drop, 1 blue mana, Thoughtbound Phantasm. It's a 2/2 defender. Every time you surveil, add a +1 counter. As long as the Phantasm has 3 or more +1s, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So once this becomes a 5/5, it can attack. So of course I've got a reusable way to do surveilling. For 2 mana, Nightveil Sprite, a 1/2, flying. Every time it attacks, surveil 1. So that lets you look at your next draws, plus makes the Phantasm stronger. Epic Downfall, you've got an epic spell to exile your opponent's creature with converted mana cost of 3 or greater. Legion's End, 2 mana, exile target creature an opponent controls with CMC of 2 or less, and all other creatures that player controls. Well, this is Brawl, they're only going to have 1 copy, but then that player reveals their hand and exiles all cards with the same name. So again, you're only going to have 1 of each, but you get to exile their pesky creature, and you get to look at their hand. Noxious Grasp, to instantly deal with any green or white creatures or planeswalkers, and you gain a life. Reeve Soul, 2 mana, destroy target creature with power 3 or less. The Elder Spell, 2 black, destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Choose a planeswalker you control, put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed. So if your opponent has a lot of planeswalkers, this is amazingly devastating. Whispering Snitch, a 1/3 creature for 2. Whenever you surveil for the first time each turn, Whispering Snitch deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life, so some good old draining action happening as you surveil. More great surveil stuff, Dimir Spybug, for 1 blue, 1 black. This is a 1/1 flyer with menace, and every time you surveil, it gets +1/+1. Lazav the Multifarious. You might think about putting this as your commander as well, because this is also a legendary creature. You could put Etrata in the deck and put Lazav as the commander if you'd like. You get a 1/3, and you surveil 1. Then X, anytime you want, even with Summon Sickness, Lazav becomes a copy of a target creature card in your graveyard with CMC of X, except its name is Lazav. It's legendary in addition to its other types, and it has this ability. So you can keep morphing your Lazav creature into anything you've got in the graveyard. Tyrant's Scorn, 1 blue 1 black instant, choose 1. Destroy target creature with CMC 3 or less, or return target creature to its owner's hand. So either outright kill a small creature of theirs, or send it back to the hand. Here's our first Planeswalker, Narset, Parter of Veils. 5 loyalty for 3 mana. Each opponent cannot draw more than 1 card each turn, so that locks them down nicely. -2, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from it, put it into your hand, and put the rest at the bottom. Blood Operative, 3/1 lifelink for 3 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile a card from a graveyard. So take out that pesky card that they keep recurring from their graveyard. When you surveil, pay 3 life and bring it back from the graveyard to your hand. Davriel, Rogue Shadow Mage. 3 mana Planeswalker for 3 loyalty. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if the player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, Davriel deals 2 damage to them. So as you whittle down their hand, Davriel is going to do some damage. How do you whittle down their hand? You have a -1. Target player discards a card. Now this is one of the War of the Spark Planeswalkers with no plus ability, so that's where Karn's Bastion really helps. Next up, Murder. Good old Murder. 3 mana, destroy target creature. Or how about Murder on a creature? Murderous Rider. 3 mana, with a swift end, instant adventure. Destroy target creature or Planeswalker, you lose 2 life. And then from exile, you can cast a Murderous Rider for a 2/3 lifelink, and when it dies, put it back into your library instead of your graveyard. Never Happened. 3 mana. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. So get rid of one of their best cards this way. You might think about shifting the focus of this deck to more discard. Mind Rot, for example, Duress. That could be another version of this deck. Obnixilus's Cruelty. Instant, 3 mana. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. If that creature would die, exile it instead. Soul Salvage. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand for 3 mana. Sorcery. So bring back a couple of great cards from your graveyard. Ashiok, Dream Renderer. 3 mana total. Planeswalker, 5 loyalty. Spells and abilities your opponents control cannot cause their controller to search their library. So whoops, they just sacrificed their fetch land, but they can't actually search for that land that they needed. -1. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard and then exile their whole graveyard. So most likely you're doing it to your opponent. There's not a lot of graveyard shenanigans in this deck, so you want to do it to the opponent. Whisper Agent, Flash, 3/2 for 3 mana. So bring in this creature at the right time to do some extra blocking, and when it enters, surveil. Another Planeswalker, Kasmina, Enigmatic Mentor. 4 mana, 5 loyalty. Spells your opponent cast that target a creature or Planeswalker you control cost 2 more. So really limit their resources by having them spend even more mana if Kasmina is on the battlefield. -2. Create a 2/2 blue wizard creature token. Draw a card, then discard a card. So this lets you loot cards and get 2/2 creatures. Bake into a Pie. Forecasting cost instant, destroy target creature. Create a food. The deck doesn't do anything with food, but this extra little bit of food can give you some life later on. Blood for Bones. Love the art on this. 4 mana sorcery. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. So think about sacrificing one of your tokens, and what you get in return is return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, then return another creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So get something right out of the graveyard right onto the battlefield at the cost of one of your tokens. Gravedigger, good old Gravedigger. Bring a creature back from the graveyard to your hand, and you get a 2/2 body. Price of Fame. 4 mana, instant, destroy target creature. But wait, this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature, like your opponent's commander. This can be a 2 mana kill spell, instant. As soon as your opponent summons their commander, it's legendary, it's done. And then you get to surveil. Ritual of Soot. 4 mana, destroy all creatures with CMC of 3 or less. I've had great fun destroying my opponent's low casting cost commander with this little beauty, and wiping the board. Watcher in the Mist. 5 mana, 3/4 flying, and when it enters, surveil 2. So you get a nice blocker, and an attacker in the air, plus some surveil. Bond of Revival. I love this card. 5 mana. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until your next turn. So let's say somehow your Etrata got into the graveyard instead of back to the command zone. Casting Bond of Revival, especially later in the game where Etrata might have more commander attacks, will be amazing, because then Etrata can attack right away with haste and maybe exile that final creature for the final hit counter, and you win the game. Doom Whisperer. I love this card. 6/6 for 5 mana, flying, trampling, Nightmare Demon. Pay 2 life as much as you want, surveil 2. And with more life in a Brawl game, you'll be able to surveil even more. Obnixilis, the Hate Twisted. We have his cruelty and we have the Planeswalker himself. 5 loyalty. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Obnixilis deals 1 damage to that player. So even on their regular old draws, Obnixilis is doing damage. And if they draw more than 1 card every time, it does them damage. -2, destroy target creature. Its controller draws 2 cards. We give them 2 cards, but we damage them for 2. Citywatch Sphinx. 6 mana, 5/4 flying, and when it dies, surveil 2. Thank you, Mr. Sphinx. Dream Eater, another amazing nightmare creature. 6 mana, 4/3 flash, and flying. I've had amazing success flashing in this creature on my opponent's turn when they're about to attack me with their amazing creature, send it back to their hand, and then on my turn I've got a 4/3. And then I surveil 4? So really dig deep into your deck to craft your next draws. Plus a 4/3. Ugin the Ineffable. 1 more Planeswalker. 6 mana, colorless, so you should not have any trouble casting this amazing Planeswalker. 4 loyalty. +1, exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit. And when that token dies, put the card into your hand. That'll work great with Blood for Bones. And -3, destroy target permanent. That's 1 or more colors. A great way to take out your opponent's creatures. And finally, Finale of Eternity, Black X. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. If X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if you can make the second part happen, that will be amazingly epic. But at least with the first part, you'll be able to destroy up to 3 of their creatures if you cast your mana just right. So there you go, that is my Etrata the Silencer Brawl deck. What do you think about it? How can you change it? How can you improve it? Let me know in the comments. Let's take the deck out for a spin and see how it handles. Alright everyone, let's give the deck a try. Let's see if we can get our Etrata Brawl deck to do its thing. So the opponent has Aurelia. They get to go first. So when Aurelia eventually appears, can we deal with Aurelia? We've got Murder. So yeah, let's give that a shot. Now they need 4 mana in Boros colors. They have 1 red mana. So they've got their Spewer. We will do our own turn 1 creature. I will probably Tyrant's Scorn their Spewer unless they get some good stuff. I'll have Murder eventually for Aurelia. They've got 2 red mana. Alright, let's get rid of that Wolverine because that will get interesting. They're going to hit me with their Spewer, but actually they're going to hit themselves, so let's see if they want to do that. And the poor little fox is scared. Let me pet you, little fox. How rude. Alright, they're getting their lands. Those are not lands. You can actually attack with that. That'll do something meaningful. But as for myself, well, let's start to bring in our combo right here, if this sprite survives. As long as I can surveil with that sprite, this phantasm will get bigger and bigger, but I doubt that that sprite will actually live. And it looks like the opponent is having some mana issues, unfortunately. Okay, that's fine. They have actually not used their Spewer for anything useful. So that Breaker is just a 2-1 by itself. And we'll do a little bit more mana, sure. So we'll let that go forward. Obnixilis can be instant. Now, I'm going to take advantage of this. My opponent seems to be having a hard time with mana, so let's bring out the big guns, unless they've got a Fry. Okay, there's their white mana. They're in business now. They have to really plan their plots at this time. Krenko, that's great. So that reminds me of doing perhaps some sort of goblin tribal brawl deck, although there have been various goblins that have been removed from standard at the moment. So if I attack, I have to exile one of their creatures. But instead, I will stick around with a great blocker. And it looks like they're still looking at their hands and not realizing that they can do their cool Spewer trick, but they're going to be damaging themselves more. And do I need that 6th land? Well, I do have a 6 casting cost creature eventually, so might as well have it. Uh-oh, that's a 4/4. I'm going to go in with a few pings in the air. If they can summon Aurelia next, that'll be great for them. Yep, here comes Aurelia. Alright, so Aurelia will give a plus, choose up to one target creature, gets a +2, until end it gets +2, gains trample, if it's red it gains vigilance, if it's white. And instead they want to do the Pathlighter. Okay, flying, each creature you control that has an adventure enters with a +1. That's pretty cool. I like the adventure cards. But then that prevents my Night Veil sprite from doing its thing. So that's what Soul Salvage will be for. On this 3rd Surveil, my Phantasm gets bigger. So now I've got a 5/5. They didn't block. Okay, that's perfect. I guess they are blocking. Okay. I guess they're not blocking. Okay, that's fine. Next turn, when they summon their Aurelia, I will murder that creature. They have plenty of mana, but what are they going to do with it? I realize I'm battling an opponent named Black Star, perhaps like the David Bowie album. And instead, they're passing on their attack phase? I guess they'll go in and do a little damage in the air. That's fine. Unless there's some spectacle cost, they probably will do the light up the stage, right? Destroy all non-giant creatures. Okay, I guess. So that was pretty epic for them. They have one card left in hand. They have their giant that they're going to summon eventually. Sir Kara. Well. So with no creatures for me to exile, I can attack with Etrata no problem. If I get Etrata killed, she can go back to... Hey, wait a minute, that was a misplay, wasn't it? I had Soul Salvage, so I didn't need to have Etrata. They'll probably create an Ajani Pridemate, which I can then attack through. So let's see what they do. They can't really gain any life. There's no creatures to gain life with. So they must create their creature. And then I'll go and unblockable here. I'm going to go remove the last item from their hand. So... So they have their final land. And I've got my other planeswalker over here. I don't really need Ashiok. Destroy their creature. Do some more damage. Yes, they have more cards in hand. They'll probably bring out their giant. And again, I've got a murder for that. So they have to plan their strategies very well. That Cavalcade of Calamity has done nothing at all. Ooh, the Wanderer. Plus Aurelia, nice. What are they going to kill with my Wanderer? I don't believe they can actually hit anything of mine. I don't have anything of power 4 or greater. Prevent all damage. Okay, that'll work. So you can't really wander anything away. This is of power whatever. So let's drop a land. And let's murder their commander, which is not damage. I guess we'll go straight for the face. Let's draw a card. Do I need Gravedigger? I guess I'll get the lower casting cost. And I'll also draw another card. Sphinx. So Obnixilis is preventing Obnixilis's damage is getting prevented from the Wanderer. That's fun. So that's one way to do it. Pretty interesting. Let's first go in and do some damage to the Wanderer. Then I can bring in Etrata for a huge amount of mana. They have a huge amount of mana as well. They must have some final burn spell that they are forgetting to look at because it's pausing for some reason. So remember, reading the card explains the card. Here's a pro tip, kids. Read your cards. Okay, well, return the Wanderer back to your hand, I suppose. But then what do you have to do here? You can't do too much on that. So there's so much that we could do here. We're wasting time with the Wanderer, but I want to keep Etrata for the right moment. So we'll do some damage this way. They will clearly block, but damage will be prevented. Oh, actually not. So with Lazav, can I get something cool? I can do a Night Veil Sprite. Epic Downfall. And this is the new amazing Lazav animation. So I'll keep that in hand. And I might as well just do a show of shock and awe, because I'm kind of in a very good position. Pay 3 life, go back to my hand. Sure. At this point, there's nothing else to turn into, I suppose. Damage is prevented.
Knowledge is not without price.
So Obnixilis is still cackling even though he's not doing any damage. So unless they have a board wipe, this might be game. They have one card in hand that they took out. Interplanar Cleansing, what can be there to wipe everything? Deafening Clarion won't get everything. Okay, they're going with Aurelia, that's fine. They can attack with their Shepherd, which will be unkillable. They'll do some damage with the Calamity for the first time ever. Charming Prince. They chose the life. Okay. +2 and trample, that's 5 damage. But if they attack with that, they'll have one less blocker. They're going to go at my Planeswalker Obnixilis. I guess that's okay. Obnixilis is already out of commission because of the Wanderer. Isn't it interesting how the algorithm pairs you up exactly with an opponent that can take your strategy out? No one plays with the Wanderer, but I got paired up with an opponent that does, because then Obnixilis cannot do anything about it. Are you done yet? You have nothing to exile. I have 3 in the air, 3 unblockable, 5 on the ground. Alright, let's Epic Downfall Etrata and wrap this up. Do we have anything good in here to turn into? We can turn into a Night Veil Sprite, and that way there's more damage that we can do in the air. So I am now a Night Veil Sprite, and what I'm going to do is go all in. So that'll be 3, 6, 7, 8. That's 8, so I don't even have to send those out. This is all basically unblockable. And there we go. So Black Star, you fought valiantly. You had a little bit of mana trouble at the beginning, but then your strategy came together very well. The Wanderer, I thought, was a very good piece in your puzzle, and you were a worthy foe. But my Etrata the Silencer was perhaps a little bit more worthy. So there you go, everyone. This is my Etrata the Silencer Brawl deck in Dimir colors. Tell me what you think about it in the comments below. How would you improve the deck? Tell me all about it. Don't forget to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/VMCampos. This has been VM Campos, and I'll see you on Ravnica.